Accidents in Moscow can be prearranged, and if you do not cooperate with us, the lives of your wife and daughter will be rearranged.
Wow.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Singapore Confidential, where we uncover the hidden histories, political intrigues, and shocking affairs that shaped our nation. My name is Marcus Lim.
And my name is Benjamin Chang, and today we are talking about,
Well, first of all, I want to ask you, why are we wearing these silly hats?
well, because that makes us more spy-like.
So it's spy versus spy, right?
Yes, spies. How many of our audience actually know spy versus spy?
You know, honestly, I think it probably dates us a lot more than does anyone else that we remember Mad Magazine and Spy v. Spy.
Mad Magazine is still in publication.
I don't know how that business model works because I haven't bought a Mad Magazine issue in like 30 years. Easily 30 years.
No, I love it. I love it. So let's get into it.
Okay, let's dig in.
Spies, is it? What are spies? Are they those people with the binoculars and they hang around windows and?
No, I think those are peeping toms. But there's like you say today we're also talking about sex, spies, and secrets in Singapore.
Oh.
So we're going to be delving into a lot of, I guess you could say, peeping tom adjacent stuff.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
So here's the thing. We don't really think of Singapore as like it's quite safe, it's clean, it's boring. So, how do spies delve into this?
Yeah, spies sounds to me like they're very, very dirty, very underground, very, something that no prim and proper nation should get into.
And
But what are spies? What do spies do? And
well, okay, spies, are part of this, I guess what in the military world you call human intelligence or human, right? It's, you're using human assets to try and get information about rival countries and rival organizations. That's what spies are. So, yes, we think that way, but the reality is Singapore has always been a sort of a hub for espionage and spycraft in the region because we're so connected and we're connected with all of the world. We're not particularly aligned to any movement. In the 60s.
Sorry, what do you mean by a hub? Does it mean foreign spies come here for
Foreign
trading?
spies come here. People trade secrets here. There's a lot of information coming back and forth. We are close to. I mean, if you look at something like the Five Eyes Defense Network, which we're not part of, I'm sure there's a lot of operations going on in Singapore as well. But because, firstly, I'm a scaredy cat. I don't want to get sued. I'm also very, please, any intelligence agencies out there, please don't target me. So we only use open source intelligence here.
There's a laser beam.
Oh no!
But why here? Why not like Pattaya or something like that?
Well, I think it's because we are just very open to the world, and we're a hub. We're a financial hub. We're a governmental hub. There are a lot of international organizations that have centers in Singapore. Interpol has a center in Singapore. You cannot also disregard rule of law. So we have a lot of embassies. So we've got a lot of diplomatic representation from around the world here. So it's only natural that that we have this undercurrent of intelligence gathering.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what do spies look after? What do they seek for?
In this day and age, there's so much information that's not out there. Usual things, for example, like political positions. What kind of positions would the government take vis-a-vis some kind of international situation or political situation? And with that information, of course, an aggressor nation or aggressor country can then counteract that movement. Diplomatically, they could sort of maneuver their way around. But they also have things like military intelligence. How many soldiers do they have? Where are they placed at? How many howitzers have they got? Artillery. All these things are par for the course.
How much money does the GIC have?
You can tell me better than I can.
Would that be military secret? Actually, you know what? It can be a military secret.
Well, it's economic secrets as well.
It's economic and it's military because military wars are fought with money, right? You have to buy things that cost a bomb.
And even more so now, wars are also fought digitally in the cyberspace because it's a lot cheaper to do that and it's a lot easier to not get caught. But that's a story for another episode. Today, what we really want to talk about are spies, human intelligence, the nitty-gritty, the kind of the human drama that occurs in all of them. So today what I've done is I've taken down 3 very different events from our history that all involve a separate great power. We talk about big powers in the world and small powers, and we're a small state. So we've got big states, we've got small states. So in the interest of being fair, I've got one from Russia, I've got one from China, and one from America. So they're all spying on us, and we're all spying on each other. And as I think one of our ministers said, there are no angels in this game. We're all playing each other. So without further ado, let's look at the first case. Okay, the first case is this incredibly interesting story that brings us back to 1978. Now, let me picture this for you. 1978, Cold War is in full force. There's the Soviet Union, and then we have this young man, Alan Wee, who joined the Singapore Foreign Service in 1967. And in 1978, he's posted to Moscow to work in the Singapore Embassy in the Soviet Union. And he goes there with his wife and his daughter, and they stay in an apartment that was formerly occupied by someone who had just left the Singapore Embassy. Now, Alan Wee was all of 28 at that time. He's a cipher engineer. What does that mean? He's a cipher officer. He's in charge of maintaining the cipher machines that allow us to decode and encode messages that we send from Russia to Singapore with our own encoding. So it's top secret kind of stuff. Here's the thing. He stays in this apartment, which is formerly occupied by an ex-employee. One day, he gets a call in this apartment from a lady called Luba. And Luba says, "Oh, I'm a friend of the former occupant. Is he around? Oh, he's not around. Well, let's be friends." So he arranged for them to go to a restaurant near the embassy called Labyrinth, where they went, they had dinner. Bear in mind, by the way, he's married with a kid at this point in time, and they're both with him in Moscow. He says, I got to go somewhere and, do some meeting. He goes and meets this lady, has dinner. They go to a bar, they go drinking, and they go dancing. And then she takes him to her apartment where they talk and they drink some more, and later they go to bed. So now we have the beginnings of a classic honeypot trap.
For the audience, what
Yes.
is a honeypot trap?
Okay, well, honeypot trap is, how do I put it delicately, is when a rival intelligence, a rival spy, uses his or her charms and wiles to...
I could do that.
No, you couldn't do that. I couldn't do that.
I have charms.
Let me read to you, okay? Let me read to you why we can't do that. And this is from an American senator called James Patterson. And he's saying this. Senator James Patterson recently commented in relation to China setting, honey traps, not honeypot, honey traps on social media platforms to ensnare potentially useful targets. He says, if you're a 6 and she's a 10, it might not be your looks that they've been charmed by. So yeah, thank you, Senator Patterson. That's very helpful. Now, we always talk about, the people we talk about on the show are real life people, right? So we don't really want to embarrass them. But if you take a look at some of the photos from the press reports in 1980, because it's when he got caught. Cannot lie. He's not a 10. He's a 5 on a good day. He's 4 maybe, So you have to understand.
So he was flattered.
He was flattered, but I think here's the thing. Look, if you know that you have this very, very sensitive job in the embassy, surely you would know this can't be so simple, can't be so easy.
I think in the case of a hot-blooded male, it probably was so simple and it was so easy. And that's why I think we have to be held to that sort of standard, right? Even if you feel flattered and...
Well, I will say that if Alan Wee had been held to that standard, right, we wouldn't have this podcast today. Let me keep going. So what happens right after that? So she met him again. We're talking about Luba. She's got this wonderful name, this Russian KGB agent that successfully honey-trapped our dear Mr. Alan. Her name was Luba Lubov Maluba.
I'm actually keying that into my browser now, and Microsoft tells me that it's been filtered out due to adult content.
Let me keep going, okay? So Luba met Alan again on several occasions, and they made love. She gave him, I don't just make love, they had sex. She gave him her telephone number and address so that he could continue to meet her, okay? A year after that, about a year, which is quite amazing how long they kept it going, because I think maybe the reason was to just get enough fit photos, pictures to compromise his position. Later, she threatened to tell his wife about their relationship and harm her if he did not cooperate with her and give her the program which could decode all messages passed through the cipher machines. Ooh. So now he's in trouble.
It's a rock and a hard place.
I think the hard place was what got him to the rock in the first place, but never mind. So we took 3 weeks to do this and gave her the program to her in September of 1979. And he did not report this to the Singapore ambassador, or he did not tell his wife. And the only way he was able to get caught was, get this, ultimately he had become, willing or unwillingly, he had become a double agent for the KGB. He was passing secrets on to them. And in return, apparently what the Soviets did was they gave him special privileges. I would presume they paid him, but they also gave him the ability to come in and out of Soviet Union without any restrictions. Now remember, this is like height of Cold War, 1970s, beginning of the 80s. Very difficult for foreigners to just come in and out of the Soviet Union like that. But here's one very interesting thing that we uncovered in our research. They also allowed him, or rather they turned a blind eye to him, smuggling out Russian icons. Do you know what icons are?
No.
So icons are very, very fascinating. They are religious ornaments. They are painted on wood, pictures of the Mother Mary, of Jesus Christ, and different saints, and they're painted in gold leaf on these icons. So Russia has had a long-standing prohibition. Any icon over 100 years old can't be exported without prior approval. But these are very, very expensive, very highly sought-after things. So he was basically allowed to just smuggle them out and I guess sell them off somewhere.
Wow, he must be minted then.
I hope so, because he spent 10 years in jail for all this. But we'll come back to that. He got caught at the Finnish border for smuggling icons out.
So you could say he was finished.
Oh God. Now it made me lose my hat. I think, shall we take off our hat? It's quite hot, isn't it?
Go for it.
Do you want to take off your hat?
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Our hats are gone. Okay. I've got head hair now. Okay.
Do I have that hair?
So this went on until February, when Wee was arrested in Helsinki by the Finnish police for smuggling. He later returned to Moscow and asked Luba to help him to stay there, as he could not face the scandal when he returned home. What do you think Luba did?
Not go home? He went home.
No, Luba didn't help. Obviously not, because now he's exposed and he's of no use to them.
Oh yeah.
So
she ghosted him.
She
like
ghosted him. This was like Tinder before Tinder was a thing. I mean, come on, that's incredible. So because of that, he came back to Singapore. He confessed his sins, and he was jailed for 10 years. 5 years for transmitting prohibited messages to the Russians, and 5 years for divulging the encryption for the cipher machines.
Isn't the traditional punishment for treason like execution or something?
Yes, but I think that's only in places where you have a king to be treasonous against, right? Or a queen to be treasonous against.
Well, at the time we had a queen. Oh, okay.
We know we did have a queen.
Yeah. So he got in prison for 10 years. Okay.
He got in prison for 10 years. And, because this was almost 45 years ago now, Alan Wee, wherever you are, wherever he is, must be about 75 by now. So it's a very old story. In mitigation, I just want to finish up by saying, Alan Wee said that Luba once referred to a smashed black Mercedes which was parked opposite his apartment. She told me that the same thing would happen to my wife and daughter, and I was shocked and asked her what she meant. She replied, and I'm going to do this in a very bad Russian accent, "Accidents in Moscow could be prearranged. And if you do not cooperate with us, the lives of your wife and daughter will be rearranged."
Wow.
That's a very bad Russian accent, but I'll save that just for you. Chilling, exactly, chilling.
Wow, terrible. Blackmailed and jailed. And yeah, I think we're very mindful that these are actual people, and he could well be alive.
Yep.
And listening to a podcast on Instagram.
About
yeah.
him. I hope he's had an uneventful full life after that.
Is that our only espionage case in Singapore?
Well, no. As you know, recently we had one very well-publicized case of Dixon Yeo, who was caught up by an American dragnet by the FBI and accused and convicted of spying for the Chinese. So this one is another very fascinating story. So he became embroiled in international espionage activities. According to research that we've done, his foray into the clandestine world of intelligence began when he was a student at Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, NUS LKY SPP, where he did his PhD. So apparently in 2015, when he was doing his PhD, he was invited to Beijing to deliver a presentation on Southeast Asian politics. And this is a very interesting case. He was approached by individuals who said they represented Chinese think tanks. So you see, your first approach is never, a spy is never going to come to you and say, "Hey, I'm a spy. Can you spy for me?" It's always through all these, in a way, it's sort of to drag you in deeper until you realize that once you realize that they're intelligence agents, you're in so deep that the only way is to come out and confess, and that will basically torpedo also your chances of, say, a career in the public service.
Oh, wow.
So as in any case for Dixon Yeo, they approached him with offers of monetary compensation in exchange for political reports. And Yeo later discovered that at least 4 of these individuals were operatives of the Chinese intelligence services. And he declined a formal contract with them, but he continued to collaborate with them. This is interesting. Although these operatives used pseudonyms in their interactions with Yeo, at this point in time, they were open with their affiliation with PRC government. And one of the operatives told Yeo that he and his boss worked for the PRC's main intelligence unit. So he made frequent trips to China between 2015 and 2019. He engaged in a lot of meetings with them. And then his focus then shifted to the United States, whether it was by request or by order of these overseas intelligence agencies, we probably don't know. So in America, he established a fake consulting company. He mirrored the name of a prominent US consulting firm and then started posting jobs online. That's why we call it the LinkedIn spy, because this strategy yielded over 400 resumes, with 90% originating from US military and government personnel holding security clearances. He managed to, I wouldn't say turn, but he managed to get reports from a whole bunch of people. One was an American civilian working on the F-35 military aircraft project. This guy apparently had financial hardships, and then he provided Yeo with insights into Japan's procurement of the F-35. And then another case was a US officer, army officer, who was apparently traumatized by his tours in Afghanistan. And he gave Yeo reports on the impact of US military withdrawal from Afghanistan. So these were all basically non-public information, maybe also not the top kind of top secret information, but nevertheless, still very important military information for the Chinese.
It sounds super fun.
Yep.
And if I were to, volunteer myself
Yes.
for such a role, what's the compensation like?
Oh, the compensation is incredible. It's amazing. For this report that this officer did on Afghanistan, he received a whopping $2,000.
What? You could barely buy an iPhone.
$2,000? Well, you could buy one iPhone. I don't know what iPhones cost these days, but you could buy an iPhone mini. Is that iPhone mini?
$2,000 for the whole job.
For the whole job. And get this, additionally, Yeo recruited a State Department employee who provided a report on a current member of the US cabinet in exchange for payments, but because of that, he jeopardized his pension.
Oh boy.
That's what we call sex, spies, and secrets, because sex is one way to entrap a person. Money is another way, financial troubles. You approach those who've got, gambling issues, gambling debts, whatever, these kind of things.
Oh, okay. So I get it. So you find someone who actually really needs money, and every little bit helps.
Yep.
So this stuff sounds very Hollywood. It really is really bizarre. It sounds very Hollywood. Surely we must be, have taken defenses against it, and that's why we need strict code of conduct and all that in our ranks. Especially the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I would assume that they would be highly targeted.
Well, I think one important way is also there's a lot of financial disclosure in the government. So, it's not public, obviously, because who wants all of their wealth or all of their financial issues broadcast out in public? But I think there are strict reporting lines where you report to your senior or you report up the chain of command. If you have gambling debts, if you have financial difficulties, then at least there's a way to say, okay, well, this is a problem. Either we have to work with you to sort this out, or we have to ring fence you away from important and dangerous information.
So all this is real, right? All this is happening in the world right now.
When we talk about counterintelligence, you have to look at your own institutions and see how they work.
Yeah, because the job of a spy may not just be to collect information, but it could also be to influence.
And that leads us to our very next story. And this brings us all the way back to the 60s. So we talked about Russia, we talked about China, now we talked about the US. And there's a fascinating story. And this is the time that the CIA tried to turn an ISD officer, or as they called it at that time, Singapore Special Branch.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Someone from the inside.
Yeah. Okay. So from 1960 to 1961, the CIA attempted to recruit Yung Siu Hwa, an inspector at the SSB, as a mole to provide them with sensitive security intelligence. And how it was resolved was, they made an approach to him. 3 days later, he told his superior, and the superior told the Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew at the time, and PM Lee authorized a double agent operation with Hwa playing along to the CIA. So here's the thing. While meeting the CIA officers in a safe house, SSB agents, Singapore agents who had been earlier deployed around the house, moved in to make arrests. So this is another, if you want to talk about Hollywood style, this is incredible. The sting operation, phenomenal. I'm reading to you something I found online that's purportedly written by Mr. Yung Siu Hwa himself, okay? So he said, The final test that the CIA put me through was to put me through a lie detector test. They regarded my recruitment as so important that they brought 2 veteran polygraph experts from the war in Vietnam, in Saigon, down to Singapore to conduct the test. I was completely unprepared for it, and it caught me with my pants down. Not literally, but because it's a sting operation, they're gonna know if you lied on the polygraph. So I was warned that the 2 polygraphers were vulnerable and their personal security could not be compromised in any way at any cost. So basically, the point being that if it's down to them or me, it's me, I'm gonna get shot. So I was placed in the most vulnerable position. If I were to go through with the polygraph test, I would be exposing myself as having betrayed them. Because one of the questions that the polygraphers would put to me was whether I had reported my CIA recruitment to the special branch. Whatever it was, I think the polygraphers were experienced and shrewd enough, and there's not an earthly chance I could pass the polygraph test. So what happened? He was desperately trying to find a convincing excuse to not do it, because according to him, they would do anything, not excluding assassination, to protect their security. Wow, dangerous time. So, it's a matter of life and death here. And what do you think the excuse was that he gave?
It wasn't me.
I have never experienced such a procedure, and I feel my health will be adversely affected.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. That's not a great excuse, man. It's like, oh no, I don't take the vaccination because. So what happened there? Even Mr. Jung himself admitted it was such a puerile excuse it could not even convince a common man. Strangely enough, they said they need to discuss this amongst ourselves, and they left me alone for a bit. After what seemed to be an eternity, they told me I could go, and then they'll do the polygraph test another time. So he got the hell out of Dodge, he got the hell out of the house, and as soon as he emerged from the house, the special branch arrest teams which had been deployed around the house moved in to make the arrest, and they arrested all of them. There was some Hollywood-style pursuit when the 2 polygraphers managed to escape in a car, but they were eventually captured. The aftermath of this story is quite familiar to everyone. The CIA were deeply embarrassed, and they offered LKY a $3.3 million personal bribe. They said, we'll either give it to you or to your political party. You can do whatever you want with it. But of course, LKY is not is a very shrewd person. He said the minute you take this money, you are beholden to them. You are done for. You're dead in the water. So he said, no, I don't want 3.3 million as a bribe. I want $33 million foreign aid to Singapore, openly and transparently.
Wow.
So basically, he took them to the kosh. He talked about a good negotiator. He'll say, he talked about, the art of the deal. This is the worst deal in the history of deals. He didn't make that deal because they refused to. They said no, and he let them go. Now, 5 years later, apparently, he went on national TV and he reviewed this to the American public. Here's the silly thing. Obviously, the American State Department came out and said, no, this never happened. And LKY, who he keeps receipts, he took out a letter from the Secretary of State Department, Dean Rusk, and said, your secretary wrote this apology letter to me. You want more? I've got recordings. I can put it up onto...
Classic.
And then, unfortunately, Congress had to go back and say, I'm sorry. We didn't check our records. We didn't know. We didn't check records. No one told us. So yeah, we're sorry. Swept under the table.
But that didn't lead to us getting $33 million richer.
It did not.
Oh, shame. Oh man, all this is classic Hollywood stuff. Why aren't there more stories about this?
I don't know. We keep saying, Netflix, I've already done a movie for you based on Spies. Let's do another one. Let's go. So those are 3 incredible stories of how 3 great powers, Russia, China, and America, spied on or tried to turn some of our Singaporeans into spies for them, into double agents for them.
Wow, and that gives us so much context about, especially work in the civil service. They're pretty strict about, what benefits you receive, all the way down to the lower ranks. Well, and of course, we must have seen in the newspapers, even the higher ranks, would be served some disciplinary action on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and money is easy to track. Sex not so easy, and being blackmailed into something. Oh man, I think that is the worst corner anyone can be pushed into.
But you see, when I see that, right, when you're caught between a rock and a hard place, ultimately your best bet is really just to come clean.
Or cyanide pills.
Yeah, but if you want to live, and I don't think cyanide pills are that easy to get by nowadays. But really, if you're Alan Wee, ultimately you just got to come clean. Otherwise, it's just digging a deeper hole for yourself. And with that, shall we go to a break?
Yes.
And then we can come back and talk about what we're trying to do After the break, what are we going to talk about?
We've heard about how spies can gather information, but not just gather, they can also influence. And in the next part, we're going to learn about how our country defends against such influence from penetrating our ranks. And we'll see you after the break.
At Majula Presents, we explain Singapore to Singaporeans one video at a time. We find out why our BTO system was created and why CDC vouchers are better than cash. Catch us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Majula Presents.
Welcome back to Majula Presents Singapore Confidential. And on this show today, we're talking about sex, spies, and secrets in that order.
In Singapore.
In Singapore. So, we talked earlier about spies and spycraft, and the whys and wherefores. To recollect, we also talked about the influence that spies can command and how they can do great damage to a country. In the previous segment, you talked about a quote.
Okay, so this is an incredible quote from Minister Smuggling, and in a speech on foreign interference in 2019. So this was way before any of the legislation was passed, and he said, essentially, foreign interference is when a country or external agencies or people try to shape the behavior, actions, policies of a target country. And frankly, there are no angels in this business. So let's drop the hypocrisy. Many big countries do this to smaller countries and to one another. End quote.
Do smaller countries do it back?
But that's a very interesting point. Do small countries do it back? And do we even have the resources to do it back?
Perhaps if we knew how much money we had in the GIC, we could.
You keep going back to GIC and Temasek. How about Temasek?
I don't know. What's Temasek?
You don't talk about
Temasek Polytechnic? The school? No, I don't know. I don't know anything.
So tell us a bit more about this. Because of all this covert foreign interference, right? How are we fighting back?
Well, there's a piece of law that got enacted in 2021. So that would be another terrible acronym. You know, we have so many acronyms. FICA.
FICA.
Yeah.
What does FICA stand for?
It sounds ever so slightly vulgar, but I assure you it's not. It stands for the Foreign Interference Countermeasures Act.
Okay.
It deals with foreign actors trying to interfere in our political affairs.
Okay.
And there are many. I mean, there are some good. Well, there are some publications online that attempt to shape how we think. I think they're not innocent. In this day and age, we've got so many digital platforms.
Yeah.
Who knows what they're trying to do?
Yeah.
I've got think tanks in schools. You know.
Right.
You know, I always hear the word think tank, and then immediately it brings to mind spy.
Yeah, because it's a weapon. It's a think tank.
Oh, it's a tank.
It's a think tank. It's a weapon. You know, it's got a massive howitzer with full of opinion pieces about to shoot at you. You know?
Oh man. So anyway,
Yeah.
if a foreign government, organization, or even an individual person is found to be secretly funding, influencing, or spreading misinformation to manipulate us, the government can act to block this or to demand disclosures,
Okay.
or even to prosecute. I mean, why not, right?
And I'm presuming, of course, you know, this was met with howls of disapproval and anger from free speech absolutists.
For sure. I mean, if you think about it, it's a little bit, you know, it's intruding on free speech and all these ideals. But I don't know, how do you feel? Is this government wielding too much power?
It's a bit of a red herring to say that it wields too much power, because the legislation can be large and all-encompassing, right? But it's also how you use that legislation. Legislation is ultimately just a tool that allows you to act in a way that is beneficial for the country, right? If we're talking about drug laws, do you want a drug law that only prescribes a certain drug? Or do you want a drug law that can say, we prescribe any drugs as they come up? And if you look at things like new psychoactive substances, right, it's a whack-a-mole thing, because you ban one substance, they'll chemically create, all these pushers will chemically create a new one and then put them on the market. So you've got to have quite wide-ranging powers for this one. But I think it depends on how you use it. And that is the real litmus test of whether it's acceptable to the population or not.
Yeah, that's true. And if the governor of the day, if they don't use the power properly, then, you know, may it lead to their doom. Accidents can be arranged, right?
Yeah. No, well, not just accidents, because then, you know, if you use it poorly and you're jailing people and it's quite clear that these things, they're not spies or they're not foreign actors interfering in our local system, then you quickly lose trust in that. You know, you lose the public trust in that piece of legislation, if not in the entire system. So you've got to be judicious about it. Power is nothing if it's not wielded with responsibility. I think so you've got to have that responsibility there. But can you tell me a bit more about what countermeasures are in this bill?
Here's an example.
Yeah, okay.
I'll paint you an example. So if there is a website and they publish alternative views, over time there's a certain theme going on. And you could sense that they're trying to convince you to a certain political, not even political, it's to a certain flavor. If it was political, if it was encouraging you to take a position for a certain party, I think that's okay. If it was a criticism about government policy, I think that is also okay. But if you could not detect either of these outcomes, then you start to wonder, actually, what are you up to? What is your end outcome?
You put me in mind of this quite a famous, I guess, situation that happened where, there was a body cam video of a police officer in Yishun, I think it was, and then, they posted a story saying, oh, this policeman has been harassing this woman and telling her to go back. And then when they actually reviewed their full body cam, no, he was looking out for the lady, even bought her food and that kind of thing. So, yeah, you're right in terms of, we're talking about policy, we're saying this is a lousy policy, it sucks and you suck, and, you guys should be voted out, that's fine. But this is a bit different because this is a bit of a,
Storytelling.
Well, it's storytelling, but it's also shooting from the hip. You don't know the full story, and then you're saying, oh, this policeman, which is a public institution, which, whether you like it or not, it's supposed to serve all Singaporeans, and then you're saying they're liars.
Correct. And you can do that, and you may not have an objective. Maybe your purpose is just to tell stories.
Right.
But you could be made use of by actors.
So,
and
okay.
they could ask you to, oh, I like your stuff. Could I pay you, to carry on making this stuff?
Okay.
You'll be flattered, right?
Yeah.
If a Russian dancer comes to your door, dancer, right?
No, but here's the thing though. They never approach you directly.
Yes.
They might say, I like your stuff, you should do more of this.
Yeah.
Do more of this, it's interesting. Come, let me sponsor. I'm not going to give you any editorial decision making. You just do what you want to do,
Yeah.
and then it happens. So fine, but what are the countermeasures for this?
So in Singapore's case, it's a good thing that we go straight for the mischief. And in the studies of law, there's this method of test or interpretation called the Mischief Test. What mischief? What is it? Are you really trying to do? What laws are you trying to circumvent?
Right.
So you can't play around with the law, as they say in our local language. So with the act, the FICA Act, some of the key features in this act is to prohibit foreign interference, especially influence in political activities.
There's one important thing, which is it's covert interference. So it has to be underground, hidden. Because if I'm not wrong, I think in the Act what they say is that if you're a foreign agency and you come out with a big press release saying, I think the Singapore government is stupid and dumb and I think they're not doing a job and you should vote them out, that's not considered foreign interference.
That's right.
Because it's not covert.
And we welcome that. A lot of people seem to think that the government doesn't welcome criticism.
No. They get hit all the time.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's okay to say that, the government is stupid or this law is stupid and we shouldn't have it.
Yeah.
That stuff is okay.
Yeah.
But when you start to,
it's the covert nature of it all.
Monkey business. We know when there's
the
monkey
mischief,
business
right,
going on, when there's mischief.
Right.
It's very hard to say that this is wrong, but it is wrong. You know it is wrong. So that's one. Prohibition on foreign influence. The next thing is to designate politically significant people.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are your individuals, or organizations such as political parties or advocacy groups. There are a lot of advocacy groups out there that really are actors, political actors with a mission, going under the cover of doing good. So back to politically significant persons.
Yep.
And once you designate who a politically significant person is, you then, open the window and let the sunlight in, and like cockroaches and vampires, they run away.
Designating someone as a politically significant person, PSP, it's not illegal to be PSP.
Yeah.
It's just opening the windows,
In fact, it's pretty cool. Wow, hey, look, I'm a politically significant person.
Well, I
should have a badge.
The NTUC is considered a politically significant person.
Oh, yes, yes.
So, political parties, the PAP is considered a PSP. I presume that the PSP is also considered a PSP.
I was about to say. The PSP is a politically significant party.
And non-constituency MPs and NMPs are also considered a PSP. So, PSP, NCMP, Liang Man Wai is also a PSP.
It's kind of confusing, but okay.
But I think this is a great idea because it's a light touch. You're not jailing anyone, which is very heavy. You're not fining anyone. What you're just doing is telling the public, hey, these people are PSPs. There's then restrictions on where they raise money from, where they raise funding from. They have to disclose where they raise funding from. Are there anything else that they have to do?
The Act gives power to the authorities to restrict content. Well, if push comes to shove, delete it.
Right.
But of course, that piece of power again is controversial. Is that against free speech or not? But I think in Singapore we are a mature nation. We know what's the difference.
Okay, but you see, I think it is controversial in a local sense because obviously you have free speech advocates on one end, and of course, you say your alternative media as well. This is going to shut us down and stuff like that. But you look at, I'll just read you some things, right? France has introduced an information manipulation law. This law mandates transparency over social media platform algorithms and election advertising. Sounds a lot like Singapore. It allows the French government to suspend television channels controlled by a foreign state or under the influence of the state. Germany has this thing called the Network Enforcement Law, which is also strongly opposed by the tech platforms, and it compels social networks to monitor and remove illegal online content, and it must be removed within 24 hours. So for us, say POFMA, for example, right? It's a correction notice. They're not even asking you to remove it. In Germany, they're saying you've got to remove it. So maybe the bar of what should be corrected is maybe different higher in Singapore than it is in Germany. But it's not. There are other countries that have this kind of law. That's Australia. Right. Israel put in transparency requirements for NGOs receiving more than half of their funding from foreign state actors.
And this is reality. Political activities are very, very hard to detect. They are convincing. They work to move masses.
Right.
And a government's job is to govern and to bring stability. And you're right. It's like whack-a-mole. If it changes shape or form, you have to find a way to take it down.
Right.
And I think we use it responsibly.
I'd like to maybe we end off with this one final sequence. We talk about, we have the hard powers to do this with the legislation. On my point of view, I think one of the strongest bulwarks we have against foreign interference is one very simple thing. We've got a lot of different races in Singapore, a lot of different religions, but everyone considers themselves Singaporean. And because of that, like if you are, say, a big power like India or China or US or Russia, you want to overwhelm us, right? There's still maybe like a portion, like you overwhelm all the Chinese, there's still the Malays and the Indians are like, no, what's going on? If you try and influence the Malays or the Indians, then the Chinese are saying, no, what's going on? So it's our multiculturalism, I feel, right, that is actually a very strong, soft bulwark against all of this.
And that's why I think the 5 pillars of total defense that we
we're going to talk about total defense. That's cringe lah.
That last part, that part about the psychological, social defense. It's amazing, and I think a lot of us underestimate the power of the People's Association. We might think
you're going there. You're going there.
You might think it's
are you going there? I can't believe you're going there.
You might think it's just Zumba and yoga and I don't know, calligraphy and all that, but it brings together people. It socializes people, and this is reality. If people are not happy with each other, if there's not enough oxytocin in people,
then it's very easy to cleave along racial lines, along religious lines, kind of thing. Before we do it, can we both look at the camera and say we are not in any way, shape, or form sponsored by any of the previous organizations we've discussed?
Yes, we are not sponsored
in any way, shape, or form by the PA, NTUC, anyone else? No. Russia, Singapore,
United States.
No.
Trump does not pay us.
It's the worst deal of all time.
Although we can accept funding.
Okay. So we just go back to that, and just to finish off, right? We'll talk about the social aspect of all of us coming together, right, as different races, right? And you can see that from a lot of the legislation, because I think the government can see that a lot of the vectors for foreign interference, for covert foreign interference, comes through your clan associations, your religious associations. It's places where people can just burrow their way in and just, and no one knows that they've been burrowed in and they've been put in as agents, and until it's time for them to change things up. So, for example, you look at this, the most recent one, which was the Maintenance of Racial and Religious Harmony Act, I think it was. Maintenance of Racial Harmony Bill. New safeguards against foreign interference will also be introduced, with some 300 clan and business associations here to be designated race-based entities subject to disclosures. And what are these disclosures? They have to then disclose their foreign affiliations, they have to disclose their foreign donations, and they have to disclose their leadership compositions, amongst other regulations. And if the government or the responsible authority that manages the Religious Harmony Bill, if they find that some of these things are not towards, they can actually call for removal of officers from these associations.
That's right.
So there's a very clear-eyed understanding that these are vectors that can come in and influence our local politics. So we've got to take that away.
Absolutely. Okay, so a lot of us take this social stuff very flimsily.
Yeah.
You know, we think that it's not serious and all that. Even engagement at work, you know, we seem to think corporate engagement is all this training and all this trust falls and all that. They're fun and pointless. Yeah, but there's some very serious mechanisms at work. Yeah. Yeah, and hence, you know, that's why all this is very important. In short.
Okay, well, that is, I think, our show for today.
Yes.
We've covered, I think, significant amount of sex, spies, and also secrets in Singapore. And we hope we've left you, the audience, with a certain sense of excitement at the hidden stories behind Singapore, but also maybe a bit more confident at how Singapore can move forward in this very, very fascinating new world of espionage, international and otherwise.
And if anyone wants to hire spies, I'm available.
Where's my hat?
Hat?
No, I lost my hat.
I've got a hat. I am fully qualified because I have a hat. Yeah.
And we are Spy v Spy, Ben Chiang and
Marcus Lim.
we are Singapore Confidential. See you next time.